Hi, we're going to graph a quadratic inequality. So just like a parabola with an equal sign, the only difference is we're going to have either a solid line or a dashed line, and we got to color and shade in one side or the other. So to get started, I want to find the axis of symmetry or the x half of the vertex. We find that by that formula, x equals negative b over 2a. My b value is 2, so I have negative 2 over 2 times my a value. It's that number in front of x squared, which is going to be negative 1 in this case. And then we come up with 2 over 2, negative, negative, giving us positive 1. So that's going to go in the middle of our t-chart. Now we need to come up with two numbers smaller, 0, negative 1, and larger, 2, 3. Because we found that axis of symmetry and we worked our way outwards from that, I don't need to plug in all 5 numbers. I'm only going to pick 3 of them to do it. So give ourselves a little less work. All right, let's start filling in the y half of this table. I just want to go with the easy problem first. Let's take 0 and plug it in. So if I plug in 0, so negative 0 squared plus 2 times 0 and 3, 0, 0, 3. So, okay, start with the easy one, get that out of the way. Let's plug in negative 1 or 3. Let's do negative 1. Let's play with our negatives a little bit. So we have negative 1 squared, 2, negative 1, and 3. So here's where things get a little weird. We have to follow order of operations. Make sure we do the exponent first. Negative 1 squared means negative 1 times negative 1, giving us a positive 1. But then that negative still has to come down because we multiply it afterwards. So it's one of the reasons why I put the parentheses there. Now adding it all together, negative 3 and 3 gives us a 0. And let's just plug in the 1. So we have negative 1 squared, 2 times 1 and 3, positive 1, then times the negative, giving us negative 1, plus 2 plus 3, so 5 minus 1 gives us 4. Okay, we have our 5 coordinates. Let's take those 5 coordinates and put them on our coordinate plane. Go back 1, up 0. Go over 0, go up 3. Go over 1, up 4. Over 2, up 3. And then over 3, up 0. Okay, so we have our coordinates. Now we need to connect those lines, but before we do that, we have to go back and ask ourselves, are we going to have a solid line or a dashed line? Because we have an equal sign, it's going to be a solid line. So we draw that, good. And along with inequalities, we need to shade. In this case, it's either going to be shading everything on the outside or everything on the inside of the parabola. In order to do that, we need to pick a point, any point, as long as it's not on our line. I like to pick 0, 0 as my x and y. I'm going to substitute those in. Now my y half is 0, so I'm going to say 0 less than or equal to negative 0 squared, 2 times 0, so my two x's are 0, so make sure they get the same, and 3. And let's simplify. Is 0 smaller? Is 0 smaller than 3, or is 3 bigger than this? Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. That means this makes sense. And that means everything else inside makes sense. So all that inside the parabola gets colored in. And that is graphing quadratic inequalities.